What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the part 6 of a story where Izuku became the shadow hero. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more information. Now, let's get into part 6. The next day Izuku arose the 15 Nomu, and to his surprise the high-end Nomu was the next grade up. He changed his name to Mikao. It has a couple of meanings, but Izuku liked it. A black shadow covered all of the body, but the 3 faces where light blue was shown. It still kept the 4 arms but was larger, around 3 meters tall. Mikao LV.1, Captain, High-End. Shadow Army. You have only unlocked 5 ranks. Normal to Elite to Knight to Elite Knight to Captain. Normal. Their strength is C rank. Their level cap is LV.10, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite. Their strength is B rank. Their level cap is LV.20. Then you need to upgrade them manually. Knight. Their strength is A rank. Their level cap is LV.30, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite Knight. Their strength is low mid S rank. Their level cap is 40, then you need to upgrade them manually. Captain. Their strength is high S rank to low national level. Their level cap is 50, then you need to upgrade them manually. The 8 low tier Nomu became LV.2 normal, and the 6 mid tier joined the LV.5 elites. So far only Mikao is captain grade, Igris and Baruka have 24 more levels to go. It also was interesting that even an elite knight with its full regeneration abilities can beat a national level hero, meaning if Izuku had multiple mana potions his army could never be defeated. With one of the 2 little spies. You say Monarch will be coming to Island? The distorted voice asked. This conversation was when Izuku was in France. Yes, sir. The shaky voice tried to be even, show no emotion, but couldn't, even being thousands of miles away from that man, she couldn't keep her poker face on. That is great, I may get rid of the pest and test out my new project. Keep me informed where and when you are going on your camping trip. I will, sir. With that the call finished, tears came down from her face. She hated doing this, but it was her fault in getting in this mess. Her curious nature won out, and that got her into this shithole. Hell, she couldn't even lie as she knew that man had a lie detection quirk in his arsenal. Some tears came onto the pillow as she tried falling asleep. Though a knock was heard in her room, she quickly wiped her tears away as she heard her name being called. Sayu, can I come in? Sure. That was when Izuku was arriving at the airport. Now the next day after Izuku defeated the Nomu with Star and Stripe, she got the call from the same man. Hello sir. Sayu, how was the little present? The man chuckled at the end. You only know that he is growing stronger and stronger with every battle he faces. A different man she didn't recognize spoke. Haha, it may be so, but I will still win. Anyways, how is Monarch? He is all healed up. I still don't know what became of the Nomu. Even though Izuku does have the Nomu in his army, their resemblance to the original forms are different. So like people in Paris identifying who Cat Noir and Ladybug is, that is how hard it is to see where the Nomu went. Just ignore the 3 faces and easy right? Yeah. Thank you for telling. Remember, if you tell anyone then your whole family will die. That man chuckled with it. He hunged up. I am sorry Izu-chan, everyone. She thought. She tried probing for information from Izuku, but he knew how to not make anyone overhear him. Though her family always came first, just what did she get into? But that very man. All for one, a villain who was alive since the dawn of quirks. As a teen he was one of the most powerful people in the world, already having stolen dozens of quirks and mastering them quickly. Now a couple of millennia old with thousands of quirks, some random, some super powerful, some that keep him alive and some that only belong to one kind of quirk bloodline, a copy type. That is why most copy type quirks are one of the rarest types, yeah, a powerful and villainous villain. All for one was scared of any other villains coming to power. That is also a reason not many S-rank heroes or above existed too. He created a balance, no super powerful heroes and no super powerful villains. It was good and bad at the same time. The only problem for the heroes, he was growing stronger every time. At the beginning he had an unhealthy obsession of protecting his brother, giving him an energy storing quirk that can build up over time to make him see things his way. Not knowing that his younger brother had a quirk that passes on the quirk down, this was the beginning of annoyances that his younger brother caused. All Might, how much he hated that man who caved in his skull. But this Izuku Midoriya is completely fascinating, an annoyance. Yes. But fascinating still. In all sense of the way he should have been a villain, the neglect, beatings and the ostracization that was given to the young man. Was it because of his father that kept him sane? Didn't he know it was a hero that killed his mother? After a couple of seconds of thinking a smirk appeared on his face. He doesn't know, does he? He was pleased about one thing that Izuku Midoriya did. His student, future body of his, Tamura Shigaraki, is becoming stronger and smarter. The rivalry between those two since the USJ attack, Kurogi told him about what happened at the mall, and he was pleased too. Who would have thought that Monarch had a heart for villains too? He just laughed, frightening the poor doctor. He was lucky that he had 2 spies in 1A, so far he knew that no one in any of the first years don't have one for all. So that leaves him with the second or third years, though there was one student Mirio Tagada who may have it. His second spy, a small kid that his parents asked for him to give a quirk to, is more reliable than Tsayu. From the second spy records he was told that the staff already suspect Tsayu from releasing the footage of Izuku's final exam. He saw Izuku defeat a high-end Nomu with some help of the #1 hero of America, and he was impressed. It was the second strongest that the doctor created, and as the report said, Izuku felt stronger, his aura gone up after the fight. Usually heroes have a limit and they don't grow that strong in such a short amount of time. Maybe he will visit his granddaughter soon, see if she could sway him or do anything. If All for One had to be honest, his granddaughter was the only joy he had in his life. His son was killed off by a riverling gang that was no more, leaving only her alive. His daughter-in-law, that he treated as his own daughter, died from the heroes failing to rescue her, and he didn't know about that, leaving her 2-year-old daughter under All for One protection. Now she was a 16, soon 17-year-old, with a powerful quirk, and had 2 other quirks that he himself gave her. With Izuku. After the fight with the Nomu, he just relaxed and continued to think about the offer that Kathleen gave to him. He did agree to it, yes, but he just wondered if he will not burn out beforehand. Izuku actually planned on leaving early so he can get a gate done before the training camp. Though he wondered one thing: when would the shadows speak? Mikao could be more expressive than the other shadows, with his mouth showing signs of speaking. Possibly the next grade could speak. Hey All Might. He was with All Might in his room talking for a bit. What up my boy? Toshinori asked. I have a way of actually getting you back to your original, muscular and healthy form. This got the attention of All Might, getting a nod because he remembered Izuku saying something about it before. As you know, I go into gates, the gate of heaven. I have 3 more floors to get through to get a potion that can heal you up with your life force too. His eyes widened at that. How? The elixir is made up of 7 ingredients, I have 4 of them, and need to collect 3 more. I cannot buy them, so I need to collect them myself. That is why I am asking for your permission to go back to Japan to finish the gate for me to give you your elixir. It was tempting. He was eating his burgers now and he was happy with that, but he knew that the embers of One for All are going away. But this may be his chance of getting back up again. The news are already reporting his activity going back up, so why not do it? Sure. Do you want me to book you a plane? Izuku shook his head. I have a teleportation skill, sorry Kalki, but I am not risking anyone else knowing about you. I can go back to Japan in this instance. I have texted my friends, otherwise I will be leaving now. Good luck, young Izuku. With that, Izuku left to his room where he jumped into a portal. Japan. Izuku firstly recalled all of the shadows that he left in Japan, as he felt as he would need all of them. Hopefully he can get more knights and elite knight grade shadows. Also leveling up would be quite handy too. He did have a gut feeling that soon the world will be in a shitstorm once again. Getting the key to the Heavens Castle, he jumped in by himself onto the 5th floor of the castle. Getting the key to the Heavens Castle, he jumped in by himself onto the 5th floor of the castle. The floor called Man was made out of silver all around, though this level out of the 11 in this floor was the least decorated with silver. You have entered the Heavens Castle dungeon. The quest has arrived. Again? Izuku thought to himself. Normal quest. Collect angel souls. Part 2. The leader of the angels, Michael, is residing on the highest floor of the Heavens Castle. Eliminate Michael and collect its soul. Quest completion requirement. Defeat the leader of the angels. Rewards. Reward 1. Highest quality runestone. Reward 2. Bonus stats plus 30. Reward 3. Hidden reward. The rewards are better than the last time. Izuku said that whilst looking at reward 1, this time this runestone is of a better level, it was in the trillions of gold I think. Highest quality runestone. Shadow exchange. The job-specific skill can be obtained by breaking the rune. Izuku realized that straight away hordes of 2 winged angels with 4 winged and an occasional 6 winged, otherwise known as powers, came flying and attacking Izuku. Come forth. With that, his shadows got out of his shadow and rushed at the angels, with Mikao leading the charge. The high-end Nomu shadow shot projectiles, killing 20 of the angels in one go. The difficulty of those levels will increase, but I too increased my army. The 2 and 4 winged angel were all B ranked, whilst 6 winged were A rank in strength, so his lower shadows had some problem dealing with them. So this is a dungeon. Sass spoke up. It looks beautiful but scary. Kalki continued. Izuku nodded. Apparently dungeons will be more common soon. There was a sighting of a gate in South Korea not too long ago actually. Izuku told them. They just nodded, looking how Izuku's shadows despise of the monsters. It was pretty simple going forth with the amount of shadows, but also having a captain in his ranks allowed Izuku to go up to the top of the 5th floor. He did collect 7 more throne angels and 5 power angels into his ranks. He was mainly saving it for the higher levels. The top level of floor 5 was all silver, you could see your reflection clearly, which Izuku saw the name tag, a dark orange name. Meaning it was around S rank in strength. Uriel the Seraphim. The 12-winged angel with what seemed like a book, Izuku read up and knew that Uriel was the smartest out of the top 4 archangels or seraphims. Raphael, even though he is strong, he is known for his healing. Gabriel for the speed, and Michael the strongest. Though the sword that Uriel carried just lit on fire. Gulping quickly, Fisher shot out his water attack that hit the slash of the sword, making the water evaporate. Mikao rushed forward trying to kill Uriel in close combat, joined with Igris and Baruka. Raphael sent out some light-based attacks whilst Dracula and Fisher concentrated on long-range attacks. With the other shadows, that Beast and Fluffy was included, rushed trying to surround the monster. It seemed like the angel smirked as the next thing that happened was what it planned. The buildings came raining down all around, smashing most shadow soldiers into shadows. Though the angel didn't expect Mikao to come close and punch its head. He flew back around 100 meters but stabilized with his wings. You might ask why Izuku could look at the Seraph. Apparently he isn't human anymore, possibly because of the system. This allows Izuku as a non-human to look at the true form of Uriel. If Izuku was gay, then he would have fallen for Uriel. That is how beautiful the true form of a Seraph is. When Uriel came back around, he shot thousands of light arrows from the sky towards the ground, piercing many, but many blocked or Beast blocked most for their liege. Fluffy wasn't as lucky. He was the largest shadow by far in the army and got hit by hundreds, but protected some other shadows. The Monarch summoned his spear and threw it towards the angel, cutting one wing off. Backing up, the regeneration factor wasn't as fast as Raphael's, but still was annoying. Baruka shot ice with Mikao, sending wind, making the ice have a larger cutting force behind it. Then the two shot running when the attack was blocked by a light shield held up by Uriel. Izuku decided to join into the close quarter combat. Using this opportunity, he started to use the skill Sprint, and with one of his ultimate moves, Flaming Fist, he punched the shield away, allowing Baruka and Mikao to jump from the left and right from Izuku, punching Uriel's head and stomach respectively. With Igris jumping above Izuku, slashing down with his sword, killing Uriel, splitting the angel in half. Uriel the Seraphim has been defeated. Izuku smirked as he picked up Scripture of the Lord and Lord's Ring. Item: Lord's Ring. Item class: S. Type: Accessory. Plus 20 intelligence, plus 20 sense. The set effect will activate if this item is equipped along with Lord's Earring, equipped. Lord's Necklace, equipped. Lord's Bracelet. Set effect 1. Plus 5 all stats. Set effect 2. Locked. Set effect 3. Locked. Quickly putting it on his right middle finger, the set effect was added to his stats. As it was a plus 10 all stats, it allowed Izuku to gain an extra 5 stat points to all stats. So he guessed that set effect 3 will give him another plus 5 stats. Set effect 1. Plus 5 all stats. Set effect 2. Plus 10 all stats. Set effect 3. Locked. Arise Uriel, stay with me and protect me with your knowledge. The angel became darker as it rose up. The book that originally had a cross on it had nothing shown, all black. He bowed to Izuku, as the greenette was happy that he got an elite knight grade soldier. The Leshy, Elder Vampire, Beast, Power Angels and the Bison walked up to Izuku. He just smiled as they all bowed. I accept your promotion. They bowed to Izuku once again and continued forth with the cart to the next floor. Next floor. The next floor was called Machin. It was made out of gold, and even the water coming out of the golden fountains had a goldish color added to them. Though Izuku realized the higher the level they were in, the softer the ground, meaning the purer the gold is. It took Izuku over 13 hours to find the boss for floor 6, level 11. He split his forces with only Uriel staying near him. Mikao took all of the Nomu-type shadows towards the south. Igris took all of the knights and mages to the east. Baruka with Fluffy took all of the bears and ice elves to the north. Raphael took all of the angels to the west. Dracula took all of the vampires to the northeast. Fisher took all of the European monster-type shadows bar the Leshy to the southwest. Whilst Leshy took all of the scorpions and the bison to the northwest. There were 5 elite knight grade shadows in that team, so that is one of the reasons that team was smallish. He did kinda feel bad for the bison, being the weakest in that team by a lot, but only 1 grade under the scorpions. Izuku and Uriel were left wandering the southeast area to find anything. The duo were currently standing atop one of the buildings, Izuku looking around and trying to use the max of his increased senses to look around, whilst Uriel tried using his knowledge of the surroundings and his magic to their advantage. Izuku narrowed his eyes, seeing that his mana is dropping. He recently found that he could see what his shadow saw. That was one of the most useful ability for spying or looking around. Izuku saw that the team that contained the bison was down. From what the shadow saw was a blur, someone who is fast. It was minutes later that the team lead by Fisher was taken down, giving a mental warning that there is an opponent that goes everywhere and anywhere with amazing speed. Apparently the warning was given too late as Igris's group was soon defeated. Through his army did increase by 7 cherubs, 4 throne angels and 10 power angels. Even with the addition of the 21 angels to the ranks under Raphael, it was quickly defeated, all bar Raphael that is. Even if a lot of the shadows were A rank meaning knight with the next group being of B rank, it still surprised how easily one can defeat them. What Izuku saw was that his most powerful angel shadow was barely keeping pace with a woman. Oh shit, that is Gabriel. I thought Gabriel was a he from the many articles. Oh well, but damn, she is fast. Izuku saw that the light red name escaped Raphael looking for future targets. He looked over Mikau's group and saw all but Mikau and Beast were recovering from a long-range attack. Hulky then popped out, "Izuku, use my power, we will get there faster." Izuku smiled and patted the horse Kwame on the head. "Don't worry little one, thanks, but we will be fine. I will try to sense her otherwise." He was stopped when he had to use his skill. Shadow manipulation to stop a spear of light from hitting himself and then using skill. Sprint to catch up to a beautiful but powerful angel. "Are you Gabriel, right?" Izuku asked the angel, though he wasn't expecting a reply. "Why have you come to the land of our father and turned my brothers and sisters into shadows?" she asked in her angelic voice, blonde hair with mesmerizing blue eyes. A stern but cute look on her face. She was holding a spear with a longer end than his own spear. "You can talk." Then after a second of thinking, "I need to get the pass to the next floor and wood of the tree of life. Then we won't fight." She stopped all of a sudden with Izuku doing the same as his hands were up showing he won't fight her. "You are interesting, why do you want to go up to the 7th floor?" He sighed lightly, "I need to get Michal's essence." That was what a recipe for the holy elixir of healing. "I see, what is your name?" "Izuku Midoriya." She just nodded, then Izuku asked, "Do you hear a voice in your head saying you need to kill humans?" She shook her head, "The only voice I hear is to protect this land." Though she did wonder why he asked. "How come you can speak whilst Uriel and Raphael couldn't?" She just laughed, "Even though my brothers are strong, I am the second strongest angel. My elder brother Michal is the strongest." "I see, so could we do this without fighting? I kinda do need to get back to the real world soon." It was true, if he knew his life room he would have called multiple times, not including his classmates that he messaged about that he has to leave early. "That does sound logical, come with me, and I will give you the wood of the tree of life." Izuku thanked her, then she started to fly, then she realized that a human couldn't fly, but was shocked when Izuku used the skill float to catch up to her. He recalled all of his shadows and after 5 minutes of flying, they saw a large tree. Large was an understatement, it had a height of 400 meters and a circumference of 90 meters. The top of the tree was branching out, covering even more surface area with multiple fruits being grown out of it. "Beautiful." Izuku muttered, it was true. Not only was a tree producing different types of fruit, but the energy of this place was something else. "I agree, this is one of my favorite places to stay when no one comes here." "I don't blame you, would you mind if I also get a seat?" She smiled a beautiful smile, a radiant and a loving smile that would cause anyone in the world to smile right back. "It would be an honor of mine." With that being said, after a minute she came out of a small house near it and gave Izuku 3 items. "I have some of the wood and a seed, just be careful as it helps regenerate your strength and vitality after it grown up a little. Here is the pass for the 7th floor." "Thank you so much." Izuku gave her a smile back that too was radiant as hers. She couldn't help but blush seeing that smile. "I have one final request of you, Izuku." Getting an interested look from Izuku, she continued, "Would it be possible to come with you to the top floor?" Izuku was confused, what about staying here and the other angels? She just sighed at that and plopped down, sitting down. The Monarch just followed her by 2 sitting down. "Angels will attack anyone who are not designated to be on their floor, meaning if I even left my level of this floor, I would be attacked. That must be annoying, I guess." "It is." She just sighed, "I don't know what father was thinking, but I do want to get out of heaven to see the world." The light smile appeared on his face. "After we defeat Michal, want to come with me?" She just hugged him with some tears. "How would you feel when your whole life was on one level of a floor? Barely remembering your brothers but otherwise couldn't see them. A pain," so she was happy when Izuku gave her this option. But that the two and Izuku's shadows went up to the Erebus, the top floor. Made out of the rarest substance found in heaven, divine light. It caused Izuku's MP to go down gradually due to the shadows slowly taking damage from the pure energy. He was lucky that his MP was nearly at his 30,000. He learned a lot from Gabriel, though she couldn't remember after she woke up. He did internally thought about the system, what was it up to? There was a problem now, the amount of cherub type of angels. Meaning angels without wings aka humans type of monsters, they had a really annoying skill. Invisibility, only himself and the angel part of the shadow army could see them. Now as he thinks about it his own cherubs can go invisible, not as his stealth skill, but still invisible to the sight. Betting 22 more cherubs, he sat comfortably with 30 cherub shadows. Though one thing came out of this floor, an evolution. Skill. Dominator's touch LV.5 evolved into skill. Gravity manipulation LV.1. No mana for the previous form Dominator's touch side, but if added mana then a negative and positive form of energy will be created. He tested it out, he called it red and blue. Red repels objects and can form it as a projectile, and blue attracts objects and can too form into a projectile. It was something useful, but he would keep it as a secret in the outside world. The eyes of Gabriel had stars in them with the two of them messing about like teens supposed to be. Gabriel got his more childish side out of him. Even if he known her for 15 hours by now, she could be said that she was just a little lower than Rumi in his favorite people list. But gradually as they went up each level Izuku with the help of Gabriel, they cut down other angels, who also attacked Gabriel. They were just talking and having fun when they just got the pass for the 11th level of the final floor. Yeah, the now 16 hours of them spending time with each other was a blast, and he wouldn't have it any other way. He even showed Sass and Kalki to her which she cutely fussed over. It was a sight seeing Sass wanting her to scratch him over his scales. Yeah, if he wasn't with Rumi he would definitely fall in love with her. A beautiful smile that could melt any heart, a friendly and a loving personality, fluffy wings, cough, big breasts, cough, and an amazing warrior. This is the final level. Izuku said with a smile, then he began being serious. It will be one of the biggest battles I have to face, and I don't want to endanger you. He wanted to know for sure, he would always collect her. Gabriel just shook her head, I will be fine Izuku, they don't call me the second strongest in heaven for nothing. She was joking around with her right arm up showing her muscles. Angel supposed to be pure, but her father made her and her 3 brothers not be able to fall. This also caused her to feel more emotions, even hate, but now she had admiration towards the man in front of her and a beginning of a crush. She wouldn't mind having him, even though she would have to have a sister in the relationship. Gabriel heard that Izuku was in a relationship with Rumi, otherwise known as Maruko. He was also aware of Shoko, Katsumi and Hei-in having crushes on that said man. Izuku chuckled and put his hand forward catching Gabriel's hand. He just squeezed and walked forward with her, not noticing her blush. When they entered the portal to the final level their hands separated as Izuku looked around not seeing anything. Both were facing each other. Izuku began to speak, so this is the final level. She just nodded but. Izuku had his eyes widened seeing her body fall limply. Hahaha, second strongest. That was a joke. Compared to me she was a weakling. A male voice shouted in some crazed glee. This wasn't how Izuku thought Michael would act. Izuku had his eyes widened seeing her body fall limply. Hahaha, second strongest. That was a joke. Compared to me she was a weakling. A male voice shouted in some crazed glee. This wasn't how Izuku thought Michael would act. He shot a condensed light pulse that could penetrate anything, killing Gabriel instantly. Izuku had an emotionless face, but suddenly his aura and the skill. Bloodlust was activated and again and again and again making it go up to new heights. He was cursing of not using Sass to reverse time. Skill. Bloodlust leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5. Skill. Bloodlust leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. Adding his mana pressure, everyone could feel it with Michael nearly falling to his knee. He didn't realize that the skill was growing. Skill. Bloodlust LV.6 leveled up to LV.max. But this final boost, the effect of getting the opponents 50% off just hit Michael with full force. Heck, if this much anger was shown in the real world everyone up to S ranks would have fallen unconscious. Leader of the Angels, Michael. A red name, that is what Izuku saw. Still being in his pissed off state. Even though he only knew her for 16 hours, he wanted to kill Michael. With skill. Sprint, he rushed at the angel. With a fire-coated fist he smashed it on Michael's face, pushing the angel back. Using skill. Gravity manipulation, he said. Red with it a tiny ball of energy was sent towards Michael who had his eyes wide open. The angel produced a light barrier to try and protect himself from the powerful attack. Then he had a realization so jumped out of the projection, knowing that his barrier will be nothing now. Michael didn't expect Mikao punching him towards Izuku. He could see that the aftermath of the red attack was similar to a localized explosion from the flight towards Izuku. Michael was lucky that he had the strongest form of invulnerability out of all of the angel, as with a brain-rattling punch given to him by Izuku, would have killed most beings. Though a smirk appeared on his face as he quickly disappeared from in front of Izuku to the behind of the greenet. Not thinking that the angel could move that fast, he appeared behind Izuku to punch him, but was blocked by the strongest shield in Izuku's army, Beast. Though the shadow was quickly dispelled as one punch crushed the soldier, making it go back to reform. Leader of angels, Michal is using the skill. Cleansing. At that point Izuku knew that he has to hide, the power of that attack was clear as daylight. If he would be in contact with it, then he would be killed. Sorry Gabriel. With that he put her body in his inventory for not to be disintegrated as some of the scraps became. He used skill. Sprint for over 2 minutes to run, and the distance he covered was something that was impressive. Izuku was lucky the attack had a limit, so he rushed back to the rushing Michal, clashing dagger and sword, making sparks fly. Izuku kicked Michal, who blocked it with his arm, trying to bat the Monarch away with his wing. Using the skill. Gravity manipulation and some MP he sent out, blue. Red was stronger than blue by at least twice from the seams of it, but it was still powerful nevertheless. Michal saw that blue was more of an absorbing force compared to the red, which repels. Knowing that if he was hit or was any near to that attack, he would probably have some of his body absorbed. He wanted to move, he really tried, but making his eyeballs look down, he saw a shadow connect to his feet. Michal had a feeling that Izuku was at fault. It was true, skill. Shadow manipulation was one of the most versatile skills. Izuku could create a bow and arrow that could capture enemies, capture them with the shadows, or even use it to attack or defend. He tried using some as armor, but the complex structure was still too high level for him, but it would have looked pretty cool on him. Michal stared with his eyes widened, he was faking the surprise. Why? Because he put his hand up and absorbed it. Hahaha, I can absorb energy from attacks. Do you think you could beat me? Forth with that all of the soldiers in his shadows came up. Mikao was still there on the outside with Beast. Michal just smirked. Leader of the angels, Michal is using the skill. Commander of all above. But that 12 white portals came to light with angels that Izuku didn't know could exist. 8 winged angels was new, and he could also see multiple 10 winged angels. Luckily they were at a lower level than Zadkiel, he would say around LV.20 Knight when Zadkiel just recently reached Elite Knight grade. Izuku had his eyes widened seeing the thousands of angels from 2 winged to 10 winged with multiple thrones, and are those virtues? The 7 angels that had a dark orange name to them had an enormous pair of wings that was taller than their faceless height. Yeah, this wasn't his day, especially losing Gabriel. Virtue of God. He was still pissed at that, don't get him wrong, but he needs to deal with Michal. Seeing that all of his shadows are preoccupied with dealing with the angels, especially the 10 winged angels, virtues actually with all but the 2, 4 and 6 winged Izuku thought. He started to hate thrones, but loved his as they are usually the ones who dealt the most damage on both sides. Jumping back, he quickly drank an MP potion giving Izuku back 5000 MP back, then concentrated on Michal, who just smirked. Both got their spears out, and with an invisible signal they both started to clash with their S-rank weapons. Izuku an opening that he tried to get with his dagger and the skill. Vital strike, but was blocked by Michal's sword. Trying something new, he used the skill. Fireball and made the surface area of the fireball to cover his dagger and slashed at Michal. The seraph blocked with his sword, but Izuku smirked, confusing Michal greatly. Skill. Fireball LV.8 is evolved to skill. Fire manipulation LV.1. 0 mana skill, can use fire as an attack, defense, or support. Max temperature is 2000 C. But the evolution of the skill and the temperature rising by 500 C, this was nearly as Endeavor's average fire temperature. You could clearly see the shock on the angel's face when Izuku's dagger began to go through his own sword. Michal jumped back and instantly had to block a downward slash from Igris, who wanted to stand by the side of Izuku. The shadow used all of his power with accidentally taking more mana from Izuku than with the natural process. When Izuku was releasing his bloodlust infused with his mana, a lot of it actually went towards the shadows, leveling them up by a good chunk, especially the elite knights and captain grades. The power boost that Izuku gave all of them allowed his shadows to become more, stronger, some evolved, but all grew in power to get revenge for their liege. The downward slash pushed Michal by a couple of meters, the spear he was using nearly broke from all of the pressure building up from an airborne Igris. Izuku went behind Michal and slashed his Achilles heel. Surprisingly, the S-rank weapon of St. Peter actually caused damage, and some bright red blood erupted from the legs. A seductive vampire used this chance to punch Michal backwards whilst giving Izuku a wink. That is weird, Izuku thought to himself. The emotions in Izuku started to cool down, an emotionless look was shown. Izuku's eyes turned smoky blue, sending shivers down Michal's spine. But the angel got some confidence back, shouting, "Is this all you have?" His heels were already healed up perfectly. "You are a weakling, and compared to me. You will be meeting my dear younger sister soon." After a second he continued, "In hell." But that laughter came out of the angel. Alarm. New skill has been discovered. Skill. Black Whip LV.1, active. No MP required, the second gift of the 6 from All Might's predecessor. Produces a shadowy substance with hints of green that can be used for capture, swinging and more. But that multiple tendrils came out of Izuku's upper body trying to capture Michael. It was the Monarch's anger that discovered this part of what Nana gave him with that kiss in the domain expansion. After a minute, Izuku realized something, domain expansion could work. Still having his glowing blue eyes, he put his right hand upwards and crossed his pointer with his middle and saying 2 words towards Michael, who thought he could relax. Total darkness. An expensive technique but would be worth it. Michael saw darkness all around him, but with Izuku improving it from the last time he used it, it was different. Shadows were all around them, their colorful color from some shadows all disappeared, only showing black outlines. There were thousands of those shadows coming up to an unmoving Michael. The angel tried to scream, move, but nothing. The shadows consumed him. After the technique ended, Michael was unmoving. Though Izuku had to kneel from his high fatigue. Leader of the angels, Michael has been defeated. One thing about infusing MP to active skills was taxing on his fatigue level. But he smiled seeing that the angel was defeated mentally, making the angel brain dead. The greenet looked around him seeing that with Michael gone, the angels started to go down like flies. He pulled out Gabriel's body in front of him and a lone tear came out. He ignored the rewards, the levels and other notifications. I am so sorry Gabriel, I couldn't protect you. A message came out in front of his eyes. Shadow extraction can be used on this target. Infuse seed of the tree of life. Izuku had his eyes widen. What does it do? He asked, talking to the system. Wanting, no needed to get hope in his system. When a shadow is infused with the seed of the tree of life, the shadow will have a difference than other shadows. That shadow will be able to talk, will have less shadows coming out of the body, and increases by 50 levels. Seeing this, Izuku said, arise, infuse the seed please. This is my only seed, so I am trusting it in you Gabriel. But that being said, a green glow came out of the seed that soon went into the shadow of Gabriel. You have upgraded the shadow. Shadow level 20 elite knight. Shadow had the seed of the tree of life infused to it. Level increased by 50 levels. Gabriel, LV.30 captain. The sight that greeted him was Gabriel in her angelic beauty, but with black wings with some white shadows coming of them. A black dress with light-colored skin with her original appearance. He ignored it and hugged her tightly. I missed you Gabriel. The seraph was shocked, she thought she died, but when she heard Izuku's voice asking to be arisen, she complied. Now she is hugging her friend, master, liege with a tear coming out of her eyes. I missed you too my liege. He shook his head, call me Izuku please. Hugging a little tighter. She complied as it was kind of an order, alright Izuku. She smiled at the end. Gabriel then done a body check and felt she was stronger. When digging a further way inside her, she felt that her body had a similar energy to the tree of life. You used the seed didn't you? Izuku nodded. I wanted to show you the outside world Gabriel. The two were still hugging at the reunion, with some tears coming from the angel's eyes. It was around 10 minutes after the defeat of Michael that Izuku and Gabriel got out of their embrace. Izuku walked up to Michael to firstly collect the rewards, Michael's essence, Michael's longsword and Lord's bracelet. Putting the accessory on his right forearm, he felt the boost in his stats. Item. Lord's bracelet. Item class. S. Type. Accessory. Plus 20, vitality plus 20 cents. The set effect is fully active. Lord's earring, equipped. Lord's necklace, equipped. Lord's ring, equipped. Lord's bracelet, equipped. Set item effect, LV.3. Set effect 1. Plus 5 all stats. Set effect 2. Plus 10 all stats. Set effect 3. Plus 15 all stats. He also received a new title, nice, though the one who overcame adversary is currently my strongest one of them all. Received. Title. Angel Hunter. Against all holy type of monsters you gain 40% more experience killing them. Izuku just smiled seeing this, he ignored the weapon for now, and then saw how many levels he'd gone up after the fight with Michael and his army of angels. You leveled up. 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 This meant he leveled up 11 times in total, not too bad if he thought about it, only 22 levels for 2 floors. It was harder to level up considering that he is up on the higher end of the power scale. A different notification popped out, he saw that a couple of his skills improved too, causing a larger smirk to appear on his face. Skill. Advanced Dagger Arts leveled up from LV.4 to LV.max. Skill. Advanced Spear Arts leveled up from LV.4 to LV.max. Alarm. Skill. Advanced Dagger Arts LV.max and Skill. Advanced Spear Arts LV.max combined and evolved to the skill. Weapons, Expert LV.1, Passive. The passive skill that gives you 50% more experience when using weapons of any kind and a plus 5% speed boost when using a weapon in combat. Skill. Shadow manipulation leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. This is pretty great, I evolved some skills into something better. Then he looked at the quest completion notification. Normal quest. Collect angel souls. Part 2 completed. The leader of the angels, Michael, is residing on the highest floor of the Heavens Castle. Eliminate Michael and collect its soul. Quest completion requirement. Defeat the leader of the angels. Rewards. Reward 1. Highest quality runestone. Reward 2. Bonus stats plus 30. Reward 3. Hidden reward. Do you accept? Accept decline. Izuku accepted it and used 20 points into sense and the rest of them into agility. He couldn't react to the shot from Michael some time earlier, he needs to change that. He started with reward 1. Received. Highest quality runestone. Shadow exchange. But that he crushed it in his fist, unlocking the second new skill of the day. Skill. Shadow, exchange LV.1, job specific. No mana required. Exchange locations between the user and the selected shadow soldier. This skill can be used again only after the 3-hour cooldown is finished. Cooldown will change depending on the skill level. He just smiled and continued with the potion he was there to make. Craft. Consumable. Elixir of healing 7/7. Heaven's blessed water. Purified ashes of the earth. Eye of thrones. Feather of the healer. Wood of the tree of life. Scripture of the Lord. Michael's essence. Craft elixir of healing. Craft Izuku muttered. Crafting elixir of healing. Crafting. The success rate and the number of items crafted will depend on the crafter's intelligence stat. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crafting successful. Crafted item. Elixir of healing Act 6. Yes. Izuku did explain what was his plan with healing All Might, and Gabriel, acting like a lost puppy, just clapped. Huh? I still have some ingredients remaining, I will keep them for now. Now he was holding a golden bottle with a clear liquid inside. Holy elixir of healing. Item class. S. Type. Consumable. A mysterious potion that can cure any disease and heal everything from a missing limb to a failing heart. The effect will only take place when the entire bottle has been consumed and life energy will be given once again. So this is the item that can heal up All Might to his original form. But before he could leave, Beast brought back Michael's dead body. Shaking his head at the action of his near high-end Nomu, he said one command, arise. You failed to extract the shadow. You still have 2 chances remaining. Widening his eyes, arise Michael. You failed to extract the shadow. You still have 1 chance remaining. Arise Michael, command under me, Izuku said that at the end. You failed to extract the shadow. You cannot extract any more. Sorry Gabriel, it seems that you, Uriel and Raphael won't have your last member of the Seraphs. Though in the inside he cursed at himself. She just hugged him muttering, don't worry darling. He was the one that killed me, so I have no bad feelings about him. Izuku just hugged back whilst patting her head, ignoring what she had called him. But nonetheless he arose 69 other angels, filling his ranks up. 7 virtues, 10 winged angels and 51 8-winged angels. He then looked at the longsword that he received. Item. Michael's longsword. Item class. S. Type. Longsword. Attack. Plus 400. Longsword brimming with the angel leader's power. It is enhanced with holy light, giving the effect cleansing when wanted. Effect. Cleansing. Summons a wave of pure light energy, killing all those surrounding the user except allies in a radius of 2 kilometers. Damn. He then looked at Igris. Igris, I want to give this longsword to you. When he gave it to Igris, he could swear he saw tears coming out of his helmet. He didn't know that Igris was one of the happiest being there is currently. Status equals. Name. Izuku Midoriya. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. The one who overcame adversary, plus 4. Level. 132. Fatigue. 0. HP. 33,040. MP. 30,240. Strength. 301. Agility. 291. Sense. 306. Vitality. 299. Intelligence. 429. Remaining points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 15% plus 50%. Physical pain nullification. 32%. Skills. Passive. Unknown, max. Muscularity, LV.1. Weapons expert, LV.1 evolved. Elemental resistance, LV.3. Active. Sprint, LV.6. Bloodlust, LV.max. Fire Manipulation, LV.1, Evolved. Vital Strike, LV.3. Stealth, LV.6. Gravity Manipulation, LV.1, Evolved. Spear Throw, LV.5. Healer, LV.8. Shadow Manipulation, LV.4. Float, LV.2. Black Whip, LV.1. Dob Specific. Shadow Extraction, LV.1 and 490 seconds. Save Shadow, LV.2 and 475 Shared Inventory, LV.1. Shadow Exchange, LV.1. == Shadow, Army == Normal to Elite to Knight to Elite Knight to Captain. 8. Low Tier Nomu LV.1, Elite. Great Siberian Bison LV.10, Elite. 40. 4 Winged Angels LV.17, Elite. 10. Mid-Tier Nomu LV.19, Elite. 30. Cherub LV.4, Knight. 33. Knight LV.8, Knight. 35. Power Angel LV.11, Knight, 6 Winged Angels. 8. Throne Angel LV.15, Knight, Ringed Angel with Eyes. 20. Ice Bears LV.17, Knight. 10. Ice Elves LV.17, Knight. 37. Rusalka LV.18, Knight, Female Slavic Water Spirit. 3. Upper Tier Nomu LV.20, Knight. 51. 8 Winged Angels LV.21, Knights. 20. Deathstalker Scorpions LV.22, Knight. Thickened Cottage LV.22, Knight, Moving House. 6. Magicians LV.24, Knight. 46. Alchemist LV.25, Knight, Slavic Bird Woman. 5. Castle Dwelling Vampire LV.26, Knight, Illusion Vampire. 10. 10 Winged Angels LV.27, Knight. 14. Vodinoi LV.27, Knight, Frog Slavic Water Spirit. Fluffy LV.1, Elite Knight, Alpha Ice Bear. Virtues LV.2, Elite Knight, 1 Winged Powerful Angels. 24. Gothic Vampire LV.2, Elite Knight, Weapon Vampire. 31. Dark Vampire LV.5, Elite Knight, Bat Vampire. 4. Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.7, Elite Knight. Zadkiel LV.10, Elite Knight, Dominion 10 Winged Angel. 4. Elder Vampire LV.14, Elite Knight. 5. Leshy LV.16, Elite Knight, Slavic Forest Deity. Beast LV.18, Elite Knight, Near High-End Nomu. Uriel LV.25, Elite Knight, Seraphim. Fisher LV.28, Elite Knight, Great Water Spirit Vodinoi. Dracula LV.32, Elite Knight, Grand Elder Vampire. Raphael LV.36, Elite Knight, Seraphim. Baruka LV.37, Elite Knight, Elf King. Bigris LV.37, Elite Knight, Knight. Mikau LV.18, Captain, High-End Nomu. Gabriel LV.30, Captain, Seraph. Izuku then used Kalki's power to go to his own dorm, hitting the bed instantly, not realizing that all his soldiers bar Gabriel came back under his shadow. Missing his own bed, he didn't realize that someone was in his dorm, his girlfriend to be exact. Gabriel had her wings folded in whilst looking at Rumi, the rabbit woman stood from her chair and looked back to the other female. Both sizing each other up. For Rumi this was a new shadow who was something else, but was really powerful nevertheless. Gabriel was practically looking down on Rumi, her height was just a centimeter or two under Izuku. When she stood on her feet, she could feel that Rumi was weaker, way weaker, with her not being an angel anymore. She smirked. So this is Rumi, darling, talked a lot about you. Baruko's eyes widened, she knew the woman in front of her was a shadow, but could talk. She wasn't like the seductive sinning vampires that she met, but this one, she didn't like her already, and with Gabriel calling her Izuku darling was a breaking point. Who are you? She gritted out, not wanting to wake Izuku up. Yufufu, I am Gabriel. The strongest soldier under Darling's command. Yeah, the Seraph likes calling Izuku darling, he saved her life, and she could stay with him and see the outside world. How can you talk? Even Mikau couldn't. Rumi knew as Izuku kept her updated to what was happening until he texted her over a day ago that he is going to complete the Heaven's Gate key. She just smirked back, the two had lightning shooting between their eyes. My, aren't you a curious bunny? After I died helping Darling, he resurrected me with a boost. Now I can have Darling too. Wait, what? Rumi abruptly stopped. I want him too, you know he has stamina for days, but I also became to care for Darling more than just a friend. Rumi just glared back at the angel, why would I even agree to that? Darling will love you still, so don't worry. But we both know that he can love more, but he is holding back with other females because he loves you too dearly. Honestly, if you were not him I would have taken Darling. She just smirked back. She just glared at the angel, this is not over. With that she went to the left side of Izuku cuddling him whilst Gabriel smirked and went to the right side of her darling. Rumi couldn't help but inhale Izuku's scent. The power that he holds back is intoxicating, she needs to think about it, but she shook her head falling asleep. Korea during the night Izuku came back. Sir. The portal is showing. A normal desk worker came into an office shouting. Anigo, the chairman and an XS rank hero of Korea, had his eyes widen. Is it stable? The serious look given by the old but friendly chairman shook the worker. Yes sir, nothing came out yet. He nodded. We have 7 days, evacuate Jeju Island immediately. Send available heroes to the island, but only those B rank and up. I will have a call with our S ranks tomorrow morning. The worker looked at the man. What exactly is it sir? What we will deal with more often in the future. Gunny replied. Inside he thought, I need to call Izuku too. The chairman did explain what will happen and what that portal was, but not all of the information that he received from Izuku was said. Next morning. Izuku was woken up by a phone ringing. Seeing his clock being 9 AM he wanted to get the phone, but his hands couldn't move. Ignoring his senses he looked around to see Rumi and Gabriel on either sides of him. Having a small smile whilst looking at Rumi but a confused smile seeing Gabriel, he shook his head and used the skill. Gravity manipulation to get the phone to his ear. Izuku Midoriya speaking. He heard some shuffling, but let the person continue. Good morning Izuku, it is me Gunny-go. The voice spoke over the phone. Morning Gunny, is everything alright? Izuku asked whilst still having both of his sides taken. He realized that this talk will be serious, so a more serious expression appeared on his face. He could hear the old man sigh. You will see it on the news shortly, but the gate appeared yesterday at 8 PM. Izuku froze. We have less than 7 days sighing he answered the unasked question. I will be going to South Korea in 3 days then. The teen with 2 beautiful women next to him could swear he could feel the old man smile. Thank you Izuku, I will be meeting you at the Seoul airport. Cool, I think Maruko will be joining me. Izuku said that due to both girls listening to what was being said. Thank you once again, we will also contact the Japanese Hero Association and some other S-rank heroes for help. The duo talked for some time until Izuku spoke up again. Izuku nodded. I will start to prepare and inform Nezu. See you in 3 days. With that Izuku hanged up. Sighing he spoke to the girls. I don't know why Gabriel is here, but in 3 days I will be going to South Korea for the gate. Rumi just nodded. I know and I will be joining you there. Gabriel glaring at Rumi too spoke up but smirked. Darling and I will be enough. Before the glares would escalate into a catfight, Izuku intervened. Please calm down. Then looking at his strongest soldier, he had to ask, Gabriel, why did you sleep with me anyways? Izuku could see Rumi smirking with the corner of his eyes, but what Gabriel said next floored both of them. Oh, that woman allowed me to date you too darling. Wait what? Izuku asked with widened eyes and some stutter. Where the hell is Gamer's mind when I need it most? Yesterday after you fell asleep, we talking and she agreed for her to share you. Rumi butted in. I said no such thing. Izuku just sighed and said, I need to speak to Nezu, my class should be returning tonight from my island, so don't destroy anything. With Nezu. Izuku ignored the fighting that was happening outside the dorm and walked to his teacher's office. Morning Nezu. Ah Izuku, perfect timing. This is what is being shown. With that Izuku was shown news from South Korean island named Jeju. The reporter that was on site was there with local heroes, police and some air-rank Korean heroes guarding the gate. Good morning Korea, I am Kim and I am here reporting about this portal that was formed yesterday at 8 PM. We see that heroes and police are guarding it whilst the citizens are evacuating Jeju Island. We will connect to Gun-Ego, the president of the Hero Association. Then a separate box appeared on the screen where both Izuku and Nezu were watching showing the man, Gun-Ego, do you know what this portal is? You could see the old man nodding. I do, what you see there is called a gate. This sadly will be the beginning of a new era for the world. This shocked Kim, the reporter. This gate is connected to another world where monsters reside in, and those so-called monsters have one goal only to kill humans. Kim asked, Sir, what do you mean? A shaky voice was heard from the reporter. A painful sigh escaped the man's mouth. A gate like you are seeing there is classified as an S-rank gate. Meaning monsters of at least S rank in strength will be coming out after 7 days of that gate being in the open. How can we stop it, sir? Now a lot of people were watching this as major news channels around the world asked the original channel if they could channel it through their network. We kill them. This shocked them all. Heroes will have to go into the gate before the 7-day mark where they need to kill the so-called boss of the gate. Sadly, the heroes will have to rely on their quirks and non-electrical support equipment. This got the reporter thinking, how do you know so much, sir? As discussed Izuku, I will tell them an altered truth. Gunny thought. Izuku and himself discussed a general plan of what to say to the people if a gate opens naturally. There was a person who was completing those gates before anyone could see them. Sadly, he was too late to notice and complete this gate before anyone realized it was there. This shocked the audience. They didn't know those gates was a common occurrence. The old man continued, "You may know him as the Japanese provisional hero, Monarch or Izuku Midoriya. A part of his quirk allows him to see where some of the future gates could be located, allowing him to complete them." Him asked another question, "Wow, I didn't know that Monarch did that. Would you be able to continue explaining?" Bunny nodded. "He will be coming here in 3 days to Korea, even though he is an international level hero. S-rank gates are nothing even close to S-rank villains. Monarch only completed one other S-rank gate, and he barely survived it. He had his shadow army and another S-rank hero with him." This shocked everyone hearing this. This was serious news. "We will be going to enter the gate with 6 of our S ranks. From Japan, the number 6 hero Maruko, number 3 hero Hawks, and Monarch with his shadow army." The numbers were low because a lot of the people were scared going in, even the remaining 3 S ranks that Korea had to offer. They continued to chat about the heroes and what of the gate, with Gunny explaining the gate system. "The gate system is tricky. There are the normal ones from E rank up to S rank, but there are the red gates and double gates. The E to S rank gates are where there is one boss which you will need to kill. The best advice for the heroes wanting to enter those gates: have at least 10 E rank heroes with 1 D rank for the E rank gate and so forth. Like with the S rank gate, we will have 8 S ranks with 1 national level heroes, but additionally, Monarch has 2 shadow soldiers ranking in the low national level marks. The double dungeons have 2 bosses, with the second boss being the rank higher than the previous boss. Finally, the red gate, Monarch completed 2 of those already and is probably the most dangerous one out of them all. You will need to defeat the boss, but it will be harder to locate as you are transported to a whole different world. 24 hours in that world is 1 hour in our world. Any ranked gates can change into the red gates, and those gates have a minimum rank of B. This once again was a shocker, but he continued, "We are confident in defeating this gate, as there is an S-rank healer from our midst, Monarch Shadows, and himself could heal others too. There are strong fighters for all ranges too. For precaution measures, we are evacuating the island and have multiple A-rank heroes from our nation Japan, China and Russia. Sir, what would happen if a gate break occurs? If a gate breaks after no one able to complete it in 7 days, the monsters will come out and start attacking every human they see." This continued for a while with Izuku's phone being bombarded. Rumi made Izuku a hero account, the Shadow Hero. Monarch with his name under the title. Before, his following was of that a top 10 hero of Japan, now he is somehow in the top 20 in the world. Damn Rumi, my phone will explode from those notification. The two watched for a while. After the report, Izuku spoke, "So yeah, I am leaving for Korea in 3 days. Nezu chuckled, "Gunny informed me that he will call you earlier." Izuku nodded, "I will be leaving Dracula, my 10 winged angels and the bison that Izawa took down for the summer camp. They can contact me anytime and I can see through their viewpoint. So if anything happens they will help. 1 high elite knight, 10 knights and 1 elite. The shadows can take down all but highest ranks, but with their regeneration powers, they will be hard to defeat." Nezu nodded in thanks, "Thank you, that would be beneficial. Though it would be funny seeing Izawa seeing the bison again. Can you not tell anyone bar Izawa-sensei about this? I believe that we have a couple of spies in the nest. It is guaranteed that we will have a spy. We will see what it will become of the training trip." Izuku nodded at that. Later on the day. "Izuku, you didn't say you were doing gates with monsters," Mina shouted. This got the attention of 2 women who were still having a glaring competition upstairs. "And what happened outside our dorms?" Kyoka asked. "Damn dude, didn't know you will be leaving for Korea." Denki commented. "Did you leave early from my island because there was a gate?" Hanta asked. "Guys, calm down." Izuku said that as he was coming out of the communal kitchen bringing out food for all of the travelers. He prepared curry for everyone, so it was all good. Before he could continue, 2 noises were heard, "Izuku. Darling." Then 2 figures were on top of Izuku. "Wait, what?" This was the response of everyone of class 1A, seeing 2 women jumping on Izuku. "Izuku, this witch threw me out of the window," Rumi commented. Gabriel threw back a response, "It wasn't my fault, darling is mine too now." "Girls, wah." He was stopped when someone else shouted. "Who the fuck are you, woman?" An angry blonde shouted from her pretty little mouth. "Oh, a dog," commented the angel. "I am the future wife of darling, I am Gabriel." Rumi had her eyes twitching. She accepted that she will be sharing Izuku with this angel, but the rivalry just began. "I am not a fucking dog, you extra." Katsumi now has to be restraining by 2 other female teens that had their eyes twitching. Izuku just sighed. He patted both Gabriel and Rumi on their heads to calm them down. "Now eat up, you had a long day of traveling, and in 2 days all of you will be going on a training camp. Yeah, a chaotic night." 2 days later. Izuku, Gabriel and Rumi now waved back to 1A and 1B as they left by their buses. During the 2 days, Izuku wanted to level up some of his skills that he thought would be the most useful. He wanted to find Nana, so sending out over 100 shadows per day, still found nothing. But talking about Nana, he didn't discover any more skills that he was apparently gifted, though he leveled up both Float and Blackwit by 2 levels each. Surprisingly, Rumi accepted Gabriel, but they still have their Riverly quirk often. Skills. Passive. Unknown, max. Muscularity, LV.1. Weapons expert, LV.2, evolved. Elemental resistance, LV.5. Active. Sprint, LV.7. Bloodlust, LV.max. Fire manipulation, LV.2, evolved. Vital strike, LV.4. Stealth, LV.7. Gravity manipulation, LV.2, evolved. Spear throw, LV.5. Healer, LV.8. Shadow manipulation, LV.5. Float, LV.4. Black whip, LV.3. Job specific. Shadow extraction, LV.1 and 475/495. Save shadow, LV.2 and 475/477. Shared inventory, LV.1. Shadow exchange, LV.1. With 1A. It is sad that Izuku couldn't come with us, Toru stated to the class. And he was excited about this, now we have 2 with him lucky in Korea. Rikito spoke. TCH, the nerd doesn't need luck. She was still angry at Rumi and Gabriel. Heian lost her chance as there was no good moment to ask them, but she now understands that there is a chance to join him. Oh, did she say that he smelt better? Now she had to have a tissue over her nose. This will be good. Master was worried that Izu-chan will be their one female spy thought. She didn't know that there was another spy in her class, but the other one knew of her. Itachi Shinso, he was invited on this trip instead of Izuku. The purple-haired boy respected Izuku somehow after he discovered that he only awakened his quirk a couple of months before Yue, his admiration went up. Even though he failed his first round of the sports festival, Izuku actually came to him and introduced him to Izawa, who took the purple-haired kid under his wing. Now he too wished Izuku luck in his battle. With 1A. The class of 1A with Hitachi all got out on a cliff facing a forest. They met up with 2 of the 4-man group called the Wild Pussycats, who had a small kid with them named Kota, a cousin of Mandalay. After some introductions with Katsumi nearly blowing up Pixie Bob as her hero crush wasn't there. Although, she did get Katsumi back as she used her quirk, Earth Flow, to get all of 1A of a cliff. But that 1A was left to find their own way to camp through the forest filled with her own creations. Izawa, an ex-insomniac, was thinking how he is practically in charge of 12 shadows that he was sure could easily defeat him if they regenerate enough. Secretly, he was glad that the bison was with him. He became fond of that shadow, don't get him wrong, he had no regrets killing it, but now he can have an overgrown cat. When he was alone he spoke to the shadows under him. At camp, I want 5 of you angels to stay in the wild pussycat shadow and Kota. I want the bison to stay with me and another angel to go to Vlad's shadow. The 4 other angels, I want you to make rounds around the camp and try to see if anyone unauthorized is close by. He then turned to Dracula, you are the strongest one here. Izawa could swear that the happiness of this vampire grand elder was pouring out of him in waves. I want you to stay near the student's general location at all times. We also need to find if there is a spy here. With that he left for the camp. Later on. When Izawa arrived, the shadows discreetly did their job finding their targets or get into positions. He had to wait for another 5 hours for his students to get through the forest whilst fighting against mud constructs that Pixie Bob created. Internally, the teacher was thinking that this was a good exercise preparing for gates. After the announcement from South Korea, every country was on the lookout for those gates, but none were found. Some believed that Izuku was taking them down, some believed that this is the end of the world, and some believed it was Asian propaganda. When he noticed the students, he smirked seeing their battered appearance. Groaning and moans of pain were heard from his class. He had a discussion to allow him to show and tell everyone that there will be only one shadow as a healer with them. Minutes later class 1B came in panting and bruised also, clapping his hands he got everyone's attention. Listen up, if anyone is hurt or anything come here. I have asked Izuku if we could have one of his healing shadows, as he will need all of his shadows at Jeju Island in 2 days' time. But that a 10-winged angel appeared behind Izawa, freaking some of the students out. As planned, Izawa will make them believe that only one shadow is with them, and they are only a healing type, making a false sense of security if anyone wants to infiltrate the camp. This is a 10-winged angel. The combat prowess of this shadow is around D rank, but their healing powers are around high A rank. This shadow has mainly one actual use and it's healing. We will only use this shadow today, and if any of you sustain an injury during this camp. The Barashizaki, a religious woman with vine hair. She came up to the shadow and spoke, "An angel that is fallen, oh dear child, what has Monarch done to you? I will release you from your fallen state and you shall go back to heaven." She tried using her hair, but Vlad stopped her. Some anger shone on her usual impassive face but was stopped nevertheless. "Ibarra, even though you are religious, you cannot deal damage to our healer. The shadow could have been an angel, but still we will need it to help you guys," Vlad reprimanded her. Izawa continued with his and Izuku's plan. "It will take longer to regenerate, also you will have a lot of pissed off students after you." Ibarra looked behind her, and she could see 90% of the students look murderous at her, because all of them were in some kind of pain. A gulp escaped Ibarra's mouth seeing that. Mandalay then spoke up, whilst ignoring Pixie Bob looking over Tenya, who had a massive blush on his face. "We have prepared dinner for you, eat up and get rested as you will be cooking from tomorrow onwards." Koda helped out with dinner, but otherwise actually spent time with the only visible shadow. With Izuku next day. Gabriel went back into his shadow whilst Rumi was with him sitting on a private jet that Hawks owned. The number 3 hero was a fun guy to talk to, pretty relaxed, but Rumi did warn him not to say anything about his quirk cause he works for the commission. Going to the airport was a fuss once again, as Izuku, Rumi and Kiego attracted attention due to their popularity. Whilst in the air, Izuku was introduced to Hawks properly and the three chatted away. When they landed, Gunny personally came to greet them much to the shock of Hawks. The three were led to a stadium where 6 Korean S-rank heroes and surprisingly 2 S-ranks from China. With the addition of Izuku and the 2 S-class heroes to either sides of him, a pretty intimidating sight if they let out their aura, but with calm facade. Now 10 solid S-rank heroes and an international level 1 were all standing around waiting for Gunny to announce the plans. In the dungeon. "I can feel it, we need stronger soldiers. We need the ultimate soldier who will lead the empire." A large white ant said to her eggs in front of her. There was something off though, one egg, it was bigger than the rest. The large nearly see-through shell, we could see a large insect shaped similar to an ant. The queen of the insect's nest continued with her speech, "The time is coming for our children to feed from the outside. For the glory of the empire. Strike fear into the enemies who will try to stop us. For the glory of the empire," the insect from the large egg thought, "I will strike fear into the enemies who try to stop us. I must strike fear into the enemies who try to stop us. You must become stronger than anyone else." The queen spoke. "I must become the strongest." With that the insect broke through its shell with its sharp claws. With it being free, 4 insect-type wings escaped from its back and screeched, "Screech. Feast and continue to feast and continue to become stronger, my child." With that the queen was eaten by her child for it to gain more power. Outside the gate no one realized that the reading went up to high S compared to its previous low S. In an underground secret lair. Same day as the meeting with Gunny. Villains, some of them are broken people, some who just want to kill and some who were there for some ideals. Tamura received an update about the camp locations and was told that only one shadow, a healer type, stayed in Japan whilst the rest of them were in Korea. He was actually fascinated by the gates, but he would need to actually go into one to how they are like. He spoke up to the League of Villains Vanguard Action Squad, "In 2 days' time you will all attack the students of UA during their training camp. Kurajiri will be sending you to your specific locations that is mentioned on the paper in front of you." He looked around seeing some bloodthirsty grins, some smiles and some he couldn't even see. From our reports there will be only one of Monarch's shadow, a healer type, the rest of his shadows are in Jeju Island with him, so we are lucky. Even if you destroy it, it will reform back, the strength is apparently D rank, but their healing ability is about A rank. He could hear some grunts of disapproval, but what can he do? Disintegrate them? The strongest in the group were 2 A-rank villains, Muscular and Moonfish, they both wanted in for the fun and food. He thought that Spinner and Himiko Toga are both C rank at least, but their skill set can increase that rank. Dobby, Compress, Magni and Mustard are at least B rank from their quirk or how they use it. Most of them didn't have proper ranks due to them being more of a non-public type of villain. Although there is a wild card, twice, a B rank villain, but if he gets over himself being cloned, then he is an S rank villain. There are 6 heroes. The Wild Pussycats, they are a high B rank hero team, mainly concentrates on rescue, but remember they do have claws. Eraserhead is officially a C rank hero, but in reality he is an A rank hero with his quirk and experience. Finally Vlad King, a B rank hero whose quirk is blood manipulation, luckily his own. He let it sink in for a while, he learned that he cannot be rash and actually plan attacks. From his last meeting with Izuku, he realized that his childish behavior will only make himself weaker, he needed to show that he is going to become stronger. Nevertheless he continued, "I want you to capture a purple-haired kid named Satoshi Shinso, and if possible Fumikage Tokoyami, a bird-faced kid. You will also be joined by an upper-tier Nomu. I know you all are strong, but there are some kids in that class that are strong too. Any questions? Can we kill those brats?" Muscular asked. Tamura nodded, all but the two mentioned targets. Receiving a bloodthirsty smile back. Flesh. Moonfish spoke. Yeah, after you do your job. Do we get dental treatment? Twice asked, heck yeah. Tamura just face faulted, the split personality shit he didn't know properly was annoying but kind of fun at the same time. With Izuku. After the planning and with Izuku and Maruko telling them their experience in a gate, they all became more serious. The reason why only China and Japan sent their heroes was to scout what those gates are about and for their own safety reasons. They all decided that they will be getting inside the gate on the 5th day of it being opened. After coming from Seoul, they all traveled towards Jeju Island where chatter occurred. When arrived, they quickly helped with some of the evacuation, and Izuku sent out his shadows on patrols to just make sure. When Izuku went towards the gate, his eyes widened. Guys. This gate level is increasing steadily but surely. One of the Korean heroes asked, what do you mean? I told Gunny that it felt like a low S rank, it is now a high S rank gate. He explained. What could make the gate level rise in power? A Chinese hero asked, he was too curious about this. The boss is getting stronger in a way. Izuku told them all. Rumi looked at the gate, it is also larger, the gate. One of the 6 Koreans asked, does larger mean stronger? Izuku shook his head, not always, but it does mean that there could be large monsters. Ox pit in, any ideas? We have the basic plan, but that is all. We are going in blind. Izuku nodded, that are gates for you, there will be more gates popping up. The times are changing, but this means we are going to change. He then took some stuff out of his inventory. These are some of the stuff I brought for you guys. The capes can withstand up to mid-S rank punches and piercings. The weapons can deal more damage to those insect-type monsters. Finally, I want each of you to carry those 2 potions. It was a green and purple respectively. The purple one reduces your fatigue, and the green one is if you are injured and a medic isn't near. So like potions from games? A Korean asked. Yes, I don't want any casualties during this raid. They all thanked him, as it was a nice gift to them all. Izuku also did that to build up relationships with other countries like China. Of course he won't tell them where he got it. But 1A, day before mission. The morning was already pain, waking up at 5 AM just to train until breakfast wasn't their cup of tea. When 1B joined them at 6 AM, they were horrified. Even Nito felt pity for 1A seeing them all in pain. Katsumi had her hands in boiling hot water to make her pores larger and for her hands to get used to the heat. Then she put her hands up in the air, causing a massive explosion similar to her gauntlet explosions. Even though she trained with Izuku, it was mainly her skill in close quarter combat. Her quirk improved of course, but not that well. She did score 823 meters, compared to her 700 something at the beginning of the year. Heian was tasked to produce as many swords she can continuously. She was eating some foods to keep her energy up. Momo had to do practically the same exercise, but she produced Russian dolls. Rikito was with them, but he was doing exercises whilst eating sweets. Ejiro and Mishiro were grouped up together. For the red-haired it was to improve his base form, whilst for Mishiro was to increase the strength of his tail. Near them was Shoko. She had to produce a large amount of ice, but in a certain shape. For example, a large block of ice in a cube shape. Shoto was near her, but he was in a tub of water. He had to change from ice to fire. Inasa was flying around with 2 massive rocks. He was practicing his precise control of air without his gauntlet. Shinso was tasted to train in hand-to-hand combat with Tiger, whilst trying to change his tone of voice to fit others. Talking about voices, Koji was screaming his poor heart out so his voice could reach further distances. Then there was Denki. Having his brain fried probably wasn't a good idea. Kyoka and Mina were both using a wall that Sai was climbing with her tongue up. Mina was shooting a high concentration of acid, whilst Kyoka was using her earphone jacks to stab the wall. Nito was going around both classes asking if he could copy their quirks and reluctantly asking for other students help him understand their quirks. Meanwhile, Ken and Shota both were relaxing under an umbrella whilst the shadow was looking over the kids' training. It was the 5th day, all of the 10S rank heroes and the national hero were doing their final preparations. Izuku called out to them as a final speech type of thing. Everyone, today you will see what a gate really is. Sadly, we must kill all of the monsters inside and not let any of them escape. We will do our best, but everyone outside just in case be prepared. Everyone shouted hi yes, the ones located outside mainly were heroes and law enforcement with some army personnel. With that being said and done, the 11 walked towards the gate with Izuku leading them and waved back. This was the final sight that 1A and 1B had of their friend. With that they went back to train. The dungeon was similar to a large cave system. Buzzing could be heard. Everyone, they are coming. With that the 9S ranks that didn't know what they properly looked like had their eyes widened seeing the large beasts. Izuku used his skill. Fire manipulation to blast the ants into corpses. I did not expect that. One of them said. That was probably a scouting party. Rumi mentioned looking at the dead bodies. Large ants with wings with a red outer skeleton around them, and for Izuku they had grey names on them. Izuku nodded. After we complete this raid, I will be giving you guys each a 10% share of all of the profits that we can get. This was also a method of getting them more motivated. The Chinese hero asked, 10%, why are you not getting anything and from what? He was genuinely surprised at this action. I don't need any money, but the crystals you occasionally see can be worth a pretty penny. Also the corpses can be sold to make more advanced gear for you guys. They all had wide eyes at that. This got a little bit of a spark in most of them. But that the group continued walking forward, but they had no luck finding anything. All of them began to worry, but after 15 minutes of walking they entered into a large space. That said space had a lot of broken eggshells on the floor scattered. There were places where an eaten ant or two was located, but that wasn't what scared them. The light that Izuku was producing on his hand shone thousands of eyes all around them. Some of the heroes gulped seeing this, then suddenly they heard a screech coming from further in. But that being said, the insects started rushing forward towards the heroes. Due to them all being S-ranked in strength and had the cloaks, none of them had any injuries, but the amount of dead insects was surprising. Izuku made his shadow soldiers come out, which supersede some of the heroes by how many they were. All but one insect was killed during their fight. The one insect saw the portal and started to fly faster. It saw light and food in the forms of humans all around it. The so-called humans had a horrified look on their face. They just realized that this is the kind of monsters the top heroes were fighting. The army started to shoot at the insect, but all of the rounds were deflected. This started to irritate the bug, so it began to go towards one of the soldiers. Suddenly a Korean air rank hero came to it with his enhanced strength quirk and caved the skull in, killing it. The said hero wiped his forehead saying, I put a lot of my power in this punch, and it nearly survived. The Koreans who knew this hero knew that he wasn't lying as they saw the aura coming from that hero. The world saw that monster as it was broadcasted. All of them realized that modern weapons like guns wouldn't work on the monsters, but their quirks are some kind of cutting method. This was an S-rank gate that even A-rank heroes can get tired quickly. Shota and Ken watched this with Vlad King having his eyes widen at that. He just hopped that Izuku, his friend's student, will be okay. But the 11 heroes. After defeated the 2042 insects with the help of Izuku's shadow army, they continued forward. They had to have a small break so some of the heroes could puke after so much killing. But their respect for Izuku only grew. It also helped them having some kind of weapon, as using their quirks for around 15 minutes straight was tiring. Some of Izuku's angels healed them up, taking the build-up of the lactic acid out of their system. They continued to walk another 10 minutes when above them tunnels were seen. This time one of the Chinese heroes used her quirk called Earth Manipulation, and with the control of her quirk, she started to crush the tunnels into themselves one at a time. The 11 could hear some cries from the insects that were 2.5 meters tall, but no one really cared as they were already fed up with them. Hawks, who was originally tasked to build up trust with Izuku and see what the gates was about, wanted to kill Madam President. He knew that they would have to kill the monsters, but this was too tiring. He wanted the hero life to be relaxing. He tried using a sword made from his feathers, but that didn't work. Doing something he didn't do for a couple of years, he used a secret part of his quirk, hardening. This part allowed Kigo to make his feathers, or at least some feathers, as hard as diamonds, and this did work. Cutting down the insects with his given weapon and his feather sword was quite effective. He still wanted to kill Madam President, don't get him wrong. After the tunnels were blocked off, they continued forward when they heard the sound again, squeak. Most of them got shivers down their spine hearing this shout, until more ant-type monsters came towards them. With 1 AB. Darkness was coming over them now. All of them were dead tired after that day's exercise. Heian actually tried to talk with Kota, but that didn't work well. She was nearly hit in her stomach. She dodged that strike luckily, but the kid was still angry. Now after eating their food, Mandalay informed them that they will be doing Walk of Courage. Sadly, before the group could go, Aizawa captured 9 of his students for remedial lessons whilst Nito followed them too, much to his embarrassment and glee. Ijiro, Rikido, Momo, Katsumi, Shoko, Mina, Denki, Hanta and Mashiro wouldn't be sleeping until 2 AM again. Whilst that was happening, the remaining 11 students of 1A were paired up, but Shinso, who was replacing Izuku, went with 1B, and this caused the two classes to be even. The shadows felt a shift in the air, some bloodlust emanating from some locations in the forest halfway through the game. The bison popped out of Aizawa's shadow, indicating that there is danger. Ignoring the surprise of the students in the remedial class, Aizawa acted on instinct and kicked the door, smashing Dobby's face and destroying the clone. One of the 10 winged shadows emerged from Vlad's shadow, and the 2 were left to protect the 10 students. Of course the students were shocked at the development. They tried to help but they were not allowed to act. Some grumbling was heard from Katsumi, especially wanting to blow people up. In the forest, Dracula emerged with the remaining angels. The other 8 angels all came out of their shadows of their partial owners, to the surprise of all students and teachers. The one remaining angel was looking around. This was when Magni and Spinner attacked. They didn't expect to be incapacitated so quickly by 3 shadow angels, as they thought they were D rank in attack power. After capturing them and making them go unconscious, much to the shock of the wild pussycats, they spread out except for one. The shadow, looking over some of the students, saw some sort of mist. Realizing it was poisonous, it went towards the middle where it was the most dense. The guy producing it tried shooting the angel, but it didn't do anything but cause a hole in the angel that was quickly healed up. Shooting another 4 rounds, it tried to do anything, but after a punch from the 10-winged angel, Mustard fell unconscious. Fumikage and Mezu had an opponent that had some sort of bondage costume from a mental institution. There was a difference though. Moonfish had its mouth wide open with some type of metal making its mouth larger. When its teeth shot out to get some flesh, Mezu went in front of Fumikage to protect him, but was stopped by one of the angels, shooting a light beam towards the teeth, shattering it. The 2 students had their eyes wide open seeing this, and the next moment another angel came from behind Moonfish and punched the villain from the back of its neck, making him go unconscious. One of the 10-winged angels took Moonfish with them to the base, whilst the other one got the 2 students back towards the base. Ichako and Tsayu were both walking down when Himiko Toga appeared. The frog girl had her eyes wide open and was about to say something when a knife was thrown by Himiko. Ichako went in front of Tsayu to protect her and had the knife cut a side of her left arm. The female villain smirked and shot out a tube from her back to collect some blood, whilst teasing the 2 with their new nicknames. The blood collection only collected some of Tsayu's blood as it impaled her, though a second later some light beams were shot at Himiko, making her dodge. Not wanting to be on the receiving side of those beams, she ran away whilst the angel stayed next to the 2 students, healing them up. Tsayu had a thought though. Did Izawa-sensei lie to us about these shadows? They are A rank in strength, not D rank. Koda, who was watched by one of the 10 angels, was sitting over a cave when he heard a noise, then some chuckling coming from his left side. Looking up, the moment he saw the villain's face, anger and fright built up in him. The killer of his parent appeared. When the villain was about to get close, 2 shadows appeared, Dracula and the angel. Knowing what to do, the angel took Koda with him, whilst the vampire will battle with Muscular. Firstly, Dracula tried to bind the muscle freak with shadows, but as that didn't work, he tried to punch the villain away. This didn't work as Muscular continued to produce more muscle to protect himself and mock Dracula, the Grand Elder Vampire. But that he thought of giving this one to his liege to turn into a shadow, as Muscular can become a strong soldier. With that, he increased his speed, cutting some muscles off, causing some pain to erupt from the villain. Whilst this was happening, he slashed the head of Cleanly. In a kick move, the vampire used the skill shared inventory to allow his liege to turn Muscular into a shadow soldier soon. With that, he left towards a green speck that can barely be seen. The fire that Dabi caused with his cremation or blue fire quirk was raging in front of the cabin. Azawa had to battle 2 more of Dabi's clones with a bison soldier to help. The fires started to go down slowly with the help of some angels that formed a perimeter around. 4 angels were guarding the perimeter with the bison. They had already tied up Magni, Spinner, Moonfish and Mustard. Ragdoll was nearly taken by the League of Villains, but she was lucky that a shadow soldier was in her shadow, otherwise she didn't think she would survive. There was still a problem of 8 students still not being accounted for. Itachi and Tetsutetsu were running towards the cabins when they bumped into Itsuka and Yusetsu, who were running away from a green thing. That green thing was an upper tier Nomu who had a lot of devices on its arms, such as a chainsaw, a large hammer and so much more. All of their quirks were useless bar Tetsutetsu, as Yusetsu could not wield anything to the Nomu. Itsuka with her big fist would most probably cut her, and Hitachi didn't even think the Nomu could talk. When the Nomu started to rush at them, Tetsutetsu with his manly axe activated his quirk steel to protect his friends. Luckily, a black blur came from the cabin side, kicking the Nomu away, seeing it was one of Izuku's shadows. Wait, there is more. All of them thought, but seeing as the shadow was pointing towards the cabin, they left Dracula to deal with the Nomu. Using the same strategy like with Muscular, the S-rank shadow quickly subdued the Nomu, who was an A rank at best. Finally, after defeating the Nomu, he placed it into Izuku's inventory. Itachi thought they were safe, but then was found in some kind of a marble. It was only a minute later when the 3 other students realized what happened. They quickly went to their teacher, saying that, and with a discreet nod to Izawa, one of the angels went to a shadow of a villain, who then teleported all but Magni, Mustard and Moonfish, who Dracula managed to get in time. After the villains captured Hitachi and one of the shadows going into one of the lava shadows, they all just sat there quietly, whilst Izuku's shadows healed anyone and started to get the fire to stop with the help of Koda. Tenya had to ask this question, "Sir, why was there more shadows than the one?" This got everyone's attention, especially for 2. Sighing heavily, it was for additional protection, but as you see we did not expect them getting the hold of Hitachi. Aizawa cursed under his breath for that. Now they all had to wait for the emergency services, now how should he explain things to Izuku and Nezu? Suddenly Dracula came up to Aizawa bringing him something, taking what the shadow brought to him, the teacher's eyes widened seeing what it was. I see, I will inform the class. Now turning to his class, the gate in Jeju seeing the worried glances from everyone, Ken brought the TV to them, and they all saw Izuku being kicked out of the gate with some bleeding. Some time earlier. They have killed around 10,000 insects, and all of them started to begging to get tired. This is the boss room most likely. Izuku said to them. If these insects broke out, South Korea would have been nearly wiped out. A Korean hero stated. Izuku nodded, they all were around high A to low S rank in strength, I bet not only South Korea would have suffered. Entering the final room they saw only one insect looking at them, and it screeched, you killed my brothers and sisters. Ki. With that ungodly amount of killing intent or bloodlust was produced causing all but Izuku on their asses bar Rumi who was on one knee. Hawks looked shocked at that, and seeing Rumi starting to stand up slowly. The regeneration skill did wonders for her improvements, but with said improvements never fully prepared for this. When Izuku used his own skill. Bloodlust it quickly overpowered the ant's bloodlust, using this opportunity he rushed towards the boss, but with more more normal soldiers came out. Izuku now just realized that the name was light red. It was probably a LV.1 captain. His shadows started to attack the soldier ants in a magnificent clash, body parts were beginning to fly. Some explosions occurred and a lot of light attacks. But when he saw that something was added to his inventory, the body of muscular, his attention was gone for a second. The new ant boss saw this distraction, and with a minute gone, using its top speed, it punched away a Korean hero. Getting out of the distraction, Izuku caught up towards the insect and punched its guard that only pushed the ant 2 meters away. He got one of the angels to heal the man up whilst he continued to fight, if you want you can leave, this boss is low intonation level. But that the boss and Izuku at their top speeds came crashing down towards each other. Shockwaves emanated from them. Izuku tried using some of his skills, such as spear throw and vital strike, but neither worked well. The 10S ranks could barely see the duo move, now they realized why Izuku was asked to come with them. And King is using skill. Evolution. Shit, Izuku didn't know what happened, but the danger rating of this king just risen. What Izuku didn't know, before the 11 came into the gate, the ant had a meal made up of 500 brothers and sisters. With it just finally evolving into a stronger form, the aura just increased. Run. It just evolved. Some tried to protest, but Izuku's shadows took them outside of the gate. The people waiting outside saw shadows carrying the S ranks but not Izuku, with Rumi thrashing in Beast's arms. One of the reporters asked, what happened? One of the Koreans replied, the Motherfucking boss evolved, Monarch was beating the ant up, but then it evolved into a more powerful being. No one could have said more as what they saw next surprised them all. Izuku was flying out of the gate, but not in the way a flying quirk would do, but more of a punch. He caused a small trench until he stood back up and shot over to the gate. What came out scared the living shit out of people, a 2.5 meter tall dark red ant, 6 thick arms protected by a thick but light exoskeleton, with 4 wings coming out of its back. I will eat you and become stronger. This put a lot of people on edge. I don't know how you did that, but I cannot wait to see you die, Izuku whispered. With that the two rushed at each other, with each clash shockwaves came out making the people around nearly fall over. The two were now up in the air, the ant using its wings whilst Izuku used his skill. Float. With having only 21,000 MP, he decided to try and finish this battle with his gravity attacks. Blue. Mana added to his skill. Gravity manipulsion. The attack that was formed on Izuku's pointer finger flew at the Ant King, wanting to move, but feeling the some kind of absorption power coming from the small sphere on condensed gravity. When the attack hit, a hole was formed in the monster's body, all of its right side was practically destroyed from its stomach and lungs to his wings and arms. The final thing Izuku did was using the skill. Spear throw with his spear killing the boss. Lowering down to the ground, he panted out as the use of blue can cause the fatigue level to go up quite a bit. He theorized that he needed to increase the skill level to improve the strength and the repercussions. Though he smiled seeing the notifications he didn't really see from the beginning of this battle. You leveled up. 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 He saw that he was still a little far from the others, so coming up to the monster he said, "Arise. I will call you Burrow." With that a shadow came out, sharp claws with blue tint, and an ant face with white shadows with a blue tint was seen. The ant kneeled down, "Greetings, Ki, my liege, Ki. Izuku had his eyes widened, "You can talk." You didn't see it in our battle, my liege, key, but I have a skill called gluttony, key, it allows me to have the same, key, powers as the one I ate. Izuku just nodded, it was interesting. Burrow LV.13, Captain. He knew he had to agree on promotions for Igris, Baruka and Raphael, but he can do it after he goes back at his group. Gabriel came out of his shadow, well done darling, everything inside the gate was collected as you commanded. Thank you Gabriel, we will talk later okay? I also need to see what was happening in Japan. She just nodded and went back into his shadow. Izuku was walking towards his group, he will deal with the 6 new levels and other notifications later. So, how was it? The rest just gave him deadpan looks, they now understood that if Izuku wasn't there then they would have been dead. One of the Chinese heroes then spoke, that boss, if you were not here we would have died. Izuku nodded, it has a skill called gluttony, if it eats someone then their quirk and memories transfer to the ant. Rumi just came up to him and hugged him, then a Korean hero then spoke, those ants were higher rank at best, but without those cloaks and weapons, we would also be dead after the first group. It was Hawk's turn this time, it was something I must admit, and those gates will be more common as time goes on. One of the reporters came up to them with their phone, there was a gate sighting in Canada actually. Their heroes are going to deal with that, but are asking for Monarch to tell them the rating for the gate, or have something that can measure the gate strength. Nodding, looking down at Rumi, I will be meeting you in Japan, I need to go to Canada, then island okay? She sighed but nodded, I will be seeing you then. With that the two kissed and Izuku started to fly to the direction of Canada. He completely ignored the conversation that the 10's rank heroes were having with the journalists. When he thought no one was looking he used Kalki's power to travel to Canada. Beating the Kwami, he walked up to the gate where some heroes and military was located. Showing his hero provisional license he walked up to the gate whilst greeting them. This is luckily a C rank gate, I recommend that 10 C ranks and 1 B ranks do this gate. But the more the safer. They talked for a bit and they asked if he could be there just in case at the back which he agreed. He then pulled out something from his inventory that measures gate strength. I will be giving it to every country, this is a gate measure. What it does is allow you to sense the power of this gate, the final reading is the boss's strength combined with some of his underlings. Meaning that this gate's boss is C rank, whilst the smaller monsters are D to C rank. The man who was the head of Canada's heroes then asked, what would happen if we don't have a B rank hero? Understanding what he meant, Izuku replied, I would recommend more than 13 C ranks. It is better to have a healer in some kind in most raids though. They continued to chat when the people decided to go in and see what it was about. It took only 45 minutes to finish this gate, some heroes puked out after killing the amount of monsters. Now they understood that if they get out it can cause trouble. It was a gate with ogres. Izuku secretly arose the boss getting a normal grade shadow, he didn't really mind what grade he arose monsters at this current moment. There were no big threats bar all for 1 and more gates, right? Anyways he also got 20 of those insects as his shadows making them elite knight LV.1. He does need to increase his shadow capacity one way or another, one reason being how cool would it be having 100 or so of the same species. During the raid though, he did nothing but give some helpful tips, such as mono ores, and what they could do with the dead ogres, such as making weapons. After getting back outside Izuku continued talking when the president of the Hero Association came up to Izuku asking him a question, Monarch can I have a moment of your time? Izuku nodded and came a little closer to the man, I want to offer an agreement. Looking confused, Izuku asked, an agreement? The man nodded, this could be your first one, so let me explain, as you are a national rank hero or at least a hero in training which was finalized with the World's Hero Association. Some countries will want you to work with them, or if something happens like a villain attack that we could deal with. We Canada have a low percentage of villain attacks, but due to our large surface area, gates would be more common to have a breakout than for example Luck. In this agreement it says that we can ask you for your help without dealing with the Japanese Association. Of course there will be some positives for your end. Izuku just nodded, I can agree on that, but if Japan is in trouble I will be staying to help, but whenever that happens I can always send my strongest shadows to help. Otherwise I can be one call away. The man handed Izuku the papers with more details, with that Izuku read through it and was happy that he could help in more places than Japan. After signing it, he gave it back to the man. Nodding, that man then asked Izuku, would you mind staying in Canada for a while longer? Izuku produced a smile on his face, I would like to, I will probably leave in a day or two, though due to school. No worries. With that the two continued to talk, there was one problem though, Izuku's phone couldn't catch any signal in that location or for a long while. With heroes, next day. They failed to call Izuku once again, and the phone just told them, the person you're calling cannot connect to your call. All Might frowned at that, but Edshot then asked All Might, isn't he flying back from Jeju Island with Maruko and Hawks? Bang Orca came up to them and spoke, that was yesterday, he is currently in Canada, apparently a gate was located there, and Monarch is helping them deal with it. You might ask what was happening. This was the next day, and the difference between time in Canada and Japan is around 13 hours difference. Year 1 hero course of UA was attacked, and one of the students was kidnapped, whilst the strongest of the students was in another country dealing with their problems. Izawa, Ken and Nezu are going to have a conference whilst the remaining top 10 heroes and other top heroes are there to rescue Hitachi Shinso and finish dealing with All for One or the Nomu. There was one problem, even though they found 2 locations of a Nomu factory and where Hitachi was hiding, the report said there is an army of Nomu apparently waiting to be unleashed, and they needed numbers. Izuku and his shadow army would have been an amazing boost to their numbers and manpower. Currently in the room were All Might, Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Edshot, Maruko, Gang Orca, Wild Pussycats, Mount Lady, Kamui Woods, Present Mick and 50 other heroes with another 5 being from UA. Tsukauchi, who became the unofficial official policeman or detective dealing with the League of Villains, spoke to the heroes in front of him. Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, as you know the League of Villains have kidnapped a student named Hitachi Shinso. We believe that the mastermind is Tamura Shigaraki, but All for One, we thought he died a couple of years ago, but due to recent activites, we believe that he survived the fight with All Might. All for One has the ability of stealing and using your quirks, so be careful with that. There are 2 locations that we will be striking, where one Hitachi Shinso is believed to be staying, and the other is a Nomu factory. They all nodded, they knew the risks of this fight. Sadly we couldn't contact Monarch, but the shadows that he left with Erasure are going to be helping us. This lifted some of the spirit, even though 11 wasn't many, the ones who could feel how powerful some were had odd expressions, especially with Dracula being mid-S rank. With Hitachi. He knew that he will be rescued, how did he know? His shadow told him. Yeah, it was weird, but even with the members of LOV trying to make him join them due to his childhood and the so-called villainous quirk, Hitachi could see that the so-called leader, Tamura, had something else on his mind. The decay quirk user was on guard, and Hitachi didn't like that for some reason. Ignoring what the members said, he looked over the TV that 3 teachers are being shown at. Conference. Izawa, Ken and Nezu all sat in front of the reporters. They told them what happened, but the reporters still had more to ask. So you are saying that this happened because one student wasn't with you? One reporter asked, her voice made nearly everyone cringe. Nezu shook his head, I am sure that if Izuku Midoriya was there then more damage would have happened. As Izuku is recognized as national level, they most likely would have gone with a different strategy to deal with him like the high-end Nomu and Island. Izawa continued, as most of you saw, the Jeju Island S-rank gate was reported by Maruko and Hawks to have thousands of insects. It was thanks to Izuku's shadows and the support equipment that he gave out that we wouldn't have thousands of monster insects flying around. He left me to command 12 shadows from mid-S rank to B rank, Izuku didn't think anything would happen here. Another reporter asked a question, do you think Hitachi Shinso will join the League of Villains? From our sources he was ostracized due to his quirk in his childhood, and even now. This secretly made the purple hair kid listen even closer to the news. Izawa stood up and shook his head, I know the kid, and he would not join the villains. He can become one of the best heroes in Japan not only with his quirk but his heart. Our place. Pizza smash. Pizza. Awkward silence. Behold the group in the hideout, no one ordered pizza this time. Then smash, All Might barreled in with his full might to save his student. Maruko smashed a different entrance whilst Kamui Woods used his quirk to capture all of the villains. Gran Torino and Edshot made Dabi, Kurajiri, and Twice go unconscious, leaving only Himiko, Tamura, Mr. Compress and Spinner. All Might quickly took hold of Hitachi, but when the group started to come closer to Tamura and the others, a glob of goo came from their mouth teleporting them away. Suddenly things started to teleport into their area, 20 mid-tier and 10 upper-tier Nomu appeared in front of Endeavor and the policeman. All Might left the Nomus to his colleagues whilst jumping towards All for One location. Urumi had one thought going through her mind, please come home soon Zuku. She then turned her attention to the 5 shadows who went with her to continue dealing with the Nomus. One of those shadows came out of Hitachi's shadow protecting and defeating some of the Nomus. Hitachi was safely away from the fighting, Gran Torino received the boy from his student before the big buffoon left towards All for One. But the Nomu extermination squad some time before. Mount Lady just stepped onto the building, crushing some of the Nomu located under her foot. Gang Orca shouted to his fellow heroes that someone is coming from what he sensed from his echolocation, but it was too late. A massive explosion occurred blasting most heroes away. Best Jeanist tried using his power of threads to pull others away, but it didn't work like he thought. When the mystery man saw him standing, an invisible smirk appeared and shot an air blast towards the hero, whilst complimenting him about his quirk. Luckily Best Jeanist was saved by Dracula who was hiding in his shadow. He used his shadow manipulation that grown whilst leveling up blocking the air blast. He then yanked the hero away to safety, whilst he would face off against this villain, whilst hoping that his liege will hear him out. The shadow. Would Monarch be here or is he still in Canada? Dracula showed no reaction which just amused All For One further, not a talker heh. I must admit, for being only mid-S rank, you are strong. Ignoring what he said, black tendrils made of shadows shot out from Dracula's shadow, trying to puncture the man standing in front of him. After the first wave shot out, with the top speed of his he rushed towards All For One and punched the man who effortlessly blocked it with one of his hands. Chuckling the villain said, having multiple quirks is always useful. Shock absorption and nullification with the addition of some strength quirk does the job well. Then with the hand he caught Dracula and he made the shadow fly away. Dracula, not taking well due this humiliation turned into his bat form and shot back towards All For One. He detransformed and tried to drop kick the man, but once again it was effortlessly blocked. Then All Might came. Oh, only 5 seconds, you didn't lose time from the Ingiri heh. The villain said mockingly. Ashinori just chuckled, I was healed and most of my power was restored. He was thankful for Izuku, as now he can go into his hero form, which is still bigger than his civilian form for much longer. Flashback. Izuku and Nezu were sitting in Nezu's office drinking tea whilst waiting for the number 1 hero. When the man entered he was surprised seeing Izuku, he just came back from training with Mirio. Nezu sir, young Izuku. Why was I called here? Izuku spoke up, have a seat All Might. Nodding to that, he sat down with Nezu offering tea. Producing an elixir out of his inventory he continued talking to All Might, this here will heal you up completely and add more time that you could use with your quirk. All Might had his eyes widened, what do you mean young Izuku? How could this here heal my time? Giving the bottle to All Might, he explained, this here heals the soul and the body. A quirk is in theory part of the soul and body, meaning even if you heal up completely the soul part of your quirk still won't be healed. But with this, it should heal you soul too, allowing you to use your quirk for a longer period of time than before. You just need to drink all of it. All Might's eyes couldn't be any larger, can I? Receiving nods from both student and head teacher, he drank all of it. It took a minute of awkward silence when All Might started to smoke a little, allowing some more muscle on his civilian form to come back, and his face didn't show a zombie, but an All Might fan without that much muscle. Ashinori could feel the strength, all of it coming back to him, he could feel like he could beat 10 All For Ones at once. Izuku saw All Might's reaction and then spoke harshly, I do not recommend for you to be in life-threatening battles anytime soon. All Might nodded vigorously, but all of the participants could feel the number 1 ore returning to him, making it slightly larger than Izuku's. The young monarch had his eyes widened at this fact, he felt Star and Stripe's aura, and it was equal to him then, but now he saw how strong All Might was when he was in his prime. Flashback end. All For One if he had eyes then they would have been as large as sources, impossible, I can feel you gave away your quirk but still have this much power in you. I must truly saw that your healer did a good job, or must I ask was it Izuku Midoriya who healed you? All Might had his eyes wide open at this revelation, the man laughed, a number 1 hero, but still cannot keep a secret. All Might and Dracula just growled, the vampire told the rest of the shadows to start evacuating the entire area, which the remaining heroes joined in seeing that this battle won't be as easy as some thought. Dracula, we need to get young Izuku's attention so he can come here. If the shadow could speak, there would be a deadpan. All For One just replied ignoring the love just watching it some way away. There is no way, he is on the other side of the planet and there is no way of him teleporting here. Then seeing Dracula laughing silently, the old villain realized that the young man probably did have a way and it was only confirmed by All Might's smirk. Anyways, I have a perfect opportunity to defeat you All Might, I may as well bring him here. That was a smirk that neither hero and shadow liked. What appeared from behind All For One was an ugly motherfucker if you could say that. Skin that seems to be melting, showing some bones and muscle, 3 eyes that don't match color and dimmed, and the teeth shown were all yellow. All Might had his eyes widened at this, I think you remember this guy, it is the villain you punched whilst also hitting one Izuku Midoriya. All Might had more anger in his voice than ever heard, what did you do? He doesn't swear, but if he did then All For One would be blushing hearing that. Oh nothing, just improved on him. Chuckling, the slime thing rushed at the two with surprising speed, All Might tried to punch it, whilst Dracula tried to slash, but both attacks seems to do nothing. The sludge came over their arms and some pressure was being produced, oh you like it? No attacks can affect him. The villain boasted. All Might with Dracula tried their hardest trying to get the sludge of them with even the vampire, trying to use his shadow to help him escape. It did nothing, but as the time was slowing down with All For One coming up to All Might with an enhanced punch someone caught it. And it is some time before. Izuku was exploring a city when he noticed that on a big screen a fight between All Might and his shadow Dracula was taking place. They were fighting against a villain, then it clicked in Izuku's head, all for one. Using Shadow Exchange with a 10-winged angel in Japan, he used the skill Shadow Exchange to change locations, leaving a confused Shadow and Peelp. Seeing what was happening with the sludge monster, he said 2 words that villains will start to fear: come forth. Present. As Izuku rushed, he blocked the punch from connecting to All Might's head. Whoa, old man, why didn't you invite me to party? The next thing that happened was Bear rushing in and knocking of the sludge Nomi that was apparently an upper tier Nomu. Wow, Monarch, so you do have teleportation. Then he looked around him. The camera crew that was in the helicopter also made their camera go around. What they saw absolutely mind-boggled them, nearly 500, but they didn't know that they could only see a sea of darkness with some colors surrounding the fight. From tall figures like Fluffy to small ones like Alchemist perched on buildings. It was a sight that many would have trembled upon seeing. Izuku had Gabriel, Mikao, Igris, Baruka and Raphael all standing behind him. Bear was still having fun with the sludge. You're strong, I must admit. He used forced quirk activation on Kurogiri and telekinesis to push all with a shouting Tamura away from this fight, knowing this would probably be the last one for some time. But I am stronger. This was confusing for Izuku as he didn't know what was happening exactly. Then All for One had his arm pointing to the sky, then changed it into a darker black with storm clouds and heavy winds coming down onto the 3 humans. Gods in human form. An unimpressed look was what All for One got from Izuku, but chuckling he clicked his fingers, then hell started. Keep the civilians safe. Izuku shouted to his shadows, tornadoes with some of them being lit on fire and multiple lightning strikes being fired of per second. A perfect scenery for an apocalypse to happen. Screams were heard, but the angels started using their light magic to form barriers to protect the civilians. Every shadow was trying to help the civilians and all of the living in the area of 5 kilometers, that is how large the control that All for One had. Bear was having fun with the sludge Nomu, even taking some of its flesh, giving him a larger invulnerability to physical attacks like punches and slashes. Izuku and All Might had their eyes widened. Toshinori then thought, was he holding back during my last battle? Was it because young Izuku is here that he is scared to lose? With an invisible signal, Izuku rushed forward, punching and kicking with All for One. If the weather wasn't as brutal as now, then people could consider this a beautiful dance of the fists. Both punched suddenly with a massive shockwave being created. This got All Might out of his funk. With that, Toshinori joined into the fight. After another 3 minutes of the fight, Izuku used his skill gravity manipulation and then said red. A red orb was formed, but All for One had used another attack too, with some kind of roots coming from his back. They produced red balls too, and when Izuku shot out his attack, All for One did the same. The explosion that came from it was something Deidara and Katsumi would have been proud of. It destroyed 50 meters in radius around the duo, a massive crater in the center. Impressive, that is a powerful technique, but I don't th. He was cut off by All Might smashing a Detroit smash on the face of the villain, making another smaller crater inside the large crater, which was located in a general area of craters. The technique with the weather manipulation stopped whilst All for One was punched in the head. Then suddenly, the arm of All for One grew in size and punched All Might straight into a building, but Izuku sent a punch at All for One who deflected, and the two went back into their dance, but there was a difference. All for One didn't have his Darth Vader mask, living mask on. All Might was quickly healed up by one of the angels and joined into the battle with Izuku's second girlfriend. Izuku still couldn't understand that, but gotten stronger feelings towards Gabriel as time went on. The double smash that been intended for the back of All for One head from both hero and shadow caused All for One to go smashing into a building this time round. Taking a breather, Gabriel and Izuku then sent out their light and shadow attacks where All for One was laying down, but a shield of some kind protected the villain. Using this chance, All for One rushed towards shooting more beams from his root wings. Neither of the three were hit with that attack, but to everyone's surprise, Baru came in and smashed his clawed hands onto All for One's unprotected head, caving it a little more, making the man go unconscious. Honestly, if a villain who is high international level villain faced against 4 international levels, even though the shadows were lower ones whilst Izuku was a mid-level, he knew he couldn't defeat them all, but do as much damage as one could. All Might went on a knee whilst Izuku got All for One in shadow binds infused with the skill Black Whip to make it sturdier. Ignoring the notification, he waited for the police to come. But the spectators. It was a surprise. At the beginning they thought they would die due to the weather attack. From multiple disasters in one area, a lot of people would have died if it wasn't for Izuku's shadows protecting them. The battle for them was intense. Whilst Izuku and All for One admittedly had a beautiful fight, it was still something to watch. Also, seeing All Might being punched through a building was a surprise, but they were happy at the end when Izuku captured the villain, whilst All Might rose his hand up in victory, whilst having some blood stains on his roughed up suit. 1A was all in their dorms, 1B was too invited looking at the large TV in 1A common room. It was something to see. Izuku was literally in Canada some time ago, and he traveled here to help All Might. There was a lot of worrying, one person cursing his name due to the angels all being fooled, a lot of happiness and curiosity of what will happen next. They know that they will have to intensify their training to catch up to Izuku as much as they could. But the granddaughter of that man. My. What a strong man, also hot. She licked her lips. In all honesty, she didn't really care that her grandfather is going to jail, as she knew that at one point he will escape. But now she had a new interest. When her grandfather told her about this young man, she was interested, but now she wanted him. She had 3 quirks, 1 natural whilst 2 others were given to her grandfather. Now she was imagining her babies and how strong they will be. You will be mine soon, dear Izu. But Izuku. For some reason he had a cold shiver go up his spine at that moment, but ignored it for the police that just arrived. He handed all for one to them with his specialized quirk cancelling cuffs. After putting him into an iron, 2 reporters came to them. All Might joined Izuku looking over the car, then Izuku remembered, shit, we could have asked him about Nana. All Might for the first time spoke, fuck. The reporters came to them and asked them some questions. They could clearly see that Izuku's shadows are helping some of the people and clearing some debris. All Might, Monarch. Do you have any comments on this? All Might sighed and spoke, we expected this fight from the beginning of the rescue of Hitachi Shinso. Izuku had his eyes widen, he didn't really know why his shadow was fighting all for one with All Might, and now he knew. I was lucky to have one of Monarch's shadows with me, so we could have contacted Monarch as he was in Canada. Izuku nodded at that. Monarch, what are your plans now? One reporter asked. Izuku just replied, sleep. A lot of fast faults came. Someone jumped and drop-kicked Izuku on the head, I told you not to be blunt. Izuku just smiled and hugged her, then kissed her, which she happily reciprocated, while seeing Gabriel seeing her darling had a tick mark over her forehead. When Rumi saw that, a smirk appeared on her face. Another reporter then asked, All Might, what will you do now? I will be slowly retiring. I will allow the younger generation fill in whilst continue teaching the younger generations. This was a shock to all. One asked, how come All Might? Sighing, the heavy man then said, I was a hero for a long time, even with Monarch healing me, I am still getting older. I had a life-threatening injury not too long ago, but Monarch here healed me up, even still my time is running dry, but with Monarch and my protege the future of Japan is secure. Everyone gave All Might a look, I talked too much didn't I? All Might thought. Some people felt betrayed by All Might, everyone pretty much knew Izuku, and he was there for most of the fights that are in the top ranks and helps out, but no one knows of his protege. It didn't even help their master in defeating the now known arch-nemesis. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.